Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony, which today commemorates the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Bardia during the Second World War. My name is Joanne Smedley, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Liz Crean. Following the evacuation of Dunkirk, and with the fall of France imminent, on the 10th of June 1940, Italy declared war on both France and Great Britain. In North Africa, British and Italian forces soon clashed across the Egyptian frontier. In September, the Italians launched an offensive from their colony of Cyrenaica, today's Libya, and pushed almost 100 kilometres into Egypt. At Sidi Barrani, both sides regrouped and looked to build up their forces. The British counter-offensive Operation Compass was launched on the 9th of December 1940 and quickly drove the Italians westward, back across the frontier. There the Italians would make a stand at the fortified coastal town of Bardia. The 6th Australian Division, which had only recently arrived, was called forward to take Bardia. On the morning of the 3rd of January 1941, the assault began with British tanks in support. After 2 days of bitter fighting through minefields, barbed wire, and heavily defended machine gun and artillery posts, the town fell. The Australians suffered 130 killed and over 300 wounded, while the Italian losses totalled some 40,000, most being taken prisoner. This stunning victory at Bardia was the first land battle fought by the Australian troops in the Second World War and the beginning of their long campaign in the desert. By any measure, they had more than proven themselves in battle. Ahead lay Tobruk. During this evening's ceremony, we will tell the story of Lance Sergeant Peter Millar, who lost his life during the Battle of Bardia. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families who love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in the singing of the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Lance Sergeant Peter Millar. Peter Millar was born on the 1st of February 1918 in Musselburgh, Scotland, the son of Robert and Grace Millar. Young Peter emigrated to Australia with his immediate family when he was 10 years old, arriving in Melbourne, where they would live in the suburbs of Elsternwick and Kew. Peter worked for his father as a grocer. 12 days after Australia followed Britain into war against Germany in September 1939, the government decided to raise a division for overseas service, the 6th Division. Millar was quick to enlist, doing so on the 21st of October at Brighton. This made him one of the first men to join this new division. It also made him a 39er, the nickname for those who enlisted in 1939. It was a badge of great pride to be a 39er, raised on the feats of the Anzacs and keen to uphold the legend. The 39ers were referred to as the first and the finest. One writer later commented, they had joined in 1939 when the war was still half a world away and Britain was still posturing. They joined for the adventure and for the travel. They joined with their mates, for it was the thing to do. Transferred to Puckapunyal for training in November, Millar was posted to the 2nd 6th Battalion. His leadership qualities were soon evident, and on the 12th of January 1940, he was promoted to corporal. After rudimentary training, in mid-April, the battalion embarked for the Middle East on the transport ship Neuralia, departing from Melbourne and sailing via Fremantle, Colombo, Aden, and the Suez Canal. Reaching the Middle East in mid-May, the battalion established itself around Beira and continued training. Far from the rolling paddocks of Puckapunyal, the men were now training among the stony hills of Palestine and the dry expanses of the Egyptian desert. Millar continued to be promoted and was appointed Lance Sergeant on the 1st of June. He attended courses in Palestine and was briefly detached as a divisional security guard at Gaza. In early January 1941, the 2nd 6th Battalion became one of the first Australian battalions to fight in the Western Desert Campaign when it took part in the Battle of Bardia in Libya. Millar's unit was ordered to attack an enemy-held wadi near the Italian stronghold in Bardia. Members of the unit had advanced to within half a kilometre of the wadi, a dried-up watercourse which ran roughly east-west across their front. On the northern bank was a fortified strongpoint, defended by barbed wire obstacles and covered by fire from fortified posts and machine guns. Before dawn on the 3rd of January 1941, 2 platoons crossed the open ground to the south, their silhouettes revealed by the flashes of artillery lighting the skyline. As they neared the Italian defences, the machine gun opened up before being knocked out by an Australian hand grenade. As the Australians got closer, the artillery fire stopped. Any closer, and they risked casualties from their own guns. Once they had gone through the wire, the men rose to their feet and raced forward shouting. Only then did the Italians fire. As the Australians went to ground, Italian hand grenades started to fall among the dead and wounded. Some returned fire, but it had little effect. The men could only reach the outer trenches, where they fought and died. While the greater attack on Bardia proved to be an outstanding success, the casualties at this post were horrific. 48 men had gone into the attack, 4 returned. Peter Millar had reportedly organised a bayonet attack against an Italian machine gun position and was later killed by an Italian soldier who had just surrendered. The bodies of the dead were recovered when the post was recaptured and they were buried in the desert. Among those who survived was Sergeant Joe Gullett, who provided an account of the battle that formed the basis for Ivor Healy's painting Bardia, action leading to the fall of Post 11. The painting was commissioned by the memorial and now appears in the Second World War galleries. Today, the body of Lance Sergeant Peter Millar lies in Halfaya Solemn War Cemetery in Egypt under the inscription, "Resting where no shadows fall, in peace he awaits us all." He was 22 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Lance Sergeant Peter Millar, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.